conclave organized for the benefit of our alumni. With the benign blessings of the Almighty and our founders of our university, Dr. Raja Sir Annamalai Chettiar and Dr. Raja Sir Muthaiya Chettiar, the university is progressing on its 90th year, and in particular, the Faculty of Engineering and Technology is celebrating its Platinum Jubilee this year, 2020. We thought of doing some program for our alumni, mainly on this lockdown situation. So we organized this program. Before that, I would like to say a few words about our Annamalai University Alumni Association. Realizing the fact that the university has produced more than 1 million students, an alumni association would be more essential for the betterment of the university, and the association was established in the year 2015 by the then administrator Mr. Shivadas Meena, and progressing well. And the main objective of the association is for the overall development of the university and students' welfare. Presently, the association with more than 450 plus life members across the globe, progressing well by doing projects such as renovation of heritage buildings, smart classrooms, exclusive alumni guest house, and many more. We understand that there are more than thousands of our alumni are successfully operating MS, MEs, and large-scale industries, and also business firms, etc., among all sectors, including education institutions. Not only that, many of our alumni holding very high positions and spearheading for the development of many organizations in India and abroad. So the present lockdown scenario has made them stranded like anything, fish out of water, with so much of doubts, confusion, and sleepless nights, which no one has seen. So we thought of organizing a program with our alumni stalwarts, along with our distinguished Vice Chancellor, to enlighten how to adopt, evolve, and emerge from the situation. At this juncture, I thank our beloved Vice Chancellor, Professor Murugesan, and Registrar, Professor N. Krishnamohan, for all their support to the Alumni Association activities. My profound thanks to the panelists, Mr. Ilanahai, Mr. Murali Shankar, Mr. URC Devarajan, Mr. Abhijit, Mr. Damodaran, Mr. Vijay Subramanian, Mr. Karthik, and moderator Mr. Vijay Sundar, all who had accepted in a very short notice. I am grateful to all of them. My sincere thanks to Mr. Gopi, Mr. Mahendra Kumar, Mr. Tannu Sundaram for their coordination. Let's not forget our university motto, with courage and fight, let's move ahead. Thank you, one and all. Over to Mr. Vijay, the moderator.
Thank you, sir. Ellarkum vanakkam. Welcome to the program. We have a very good lineup of panelists lined up today. They are all eminent personalities in the industry and in the field, in their personal fields. They are all, of course, alumni of Annamalai University as well. I will briefly introduce each of the panelists, and then all of them will in turn take a few minutes to speak a little bit about the situation in their particular industry. As this is being live streamed on YouTube, you viewers can ask their questions on live chat, and our moderation team will pick the interesting questions to be discussed amongst the panelists. So I would, first of all, I would like to welcome the panelists and thank all of them for taking the time off to talk about response to this COVID pandemic. First of all, we have Dr. V. Murugesan, Vice Chancellor of Annamalai University, Mr. S. Ilanahai, Chairman and Managing Director, SETEX Fellow Petrochemicals, Shri Murali Shankar, Managing Director, Super Auto Forge, Shri URC Devarajan, Chairman and Managing Director, URC Constructions, Shri S. Damodaran, Executive Vice President, Sai Life Sciences, Shri Karthikeyan, Head Global Rewards and member of the India Board of NASPERS, Shri Abhijit Kalampore, VP Mobility Solutions and Original Equipment Sales, Bosch. Shri Vijay Subramaniam, Managing Director, Alstom Transport, India. So we will start off with our esteemed Vice Chancellor, Dr. Murugesan, to say a few words. Dr. Murugesan is the current VC. He finished his BSc at St. Joseph's, Trichy, his MSc from Loyola College, MPhil from University of Madras, and his PhD in Anna University, all in chemistry. He has a storied career with over 40 years of teaching experience, spanning stints at eminent institutions like Pittsburgh University, Anna University, and he was also the head of Department of Chemistry at Anna University. He is on the editorial board of several prestigious international journals. He is a member in many professional bodies across the world, and he is serving as a member in academic bodies of many universities in our country. His major research interests include porous catalytic materials for fine chemical synthesis, semiconductor photocatalytic mesoporous and nanostructured materials for pollution abatement, and physical organic chemistry. Thank you very much, sir. Please say a few words about your experience with the COVID pandemic and how the university is responding to this.
எல்லோருக்கும் வணக்கம். Good evening. It's a very great opportunity. At the outset, I immensely thank Annamalai University Alumni Association for having arranged a conclave like this on a very important pandemic crisis which is going on across the globe, in which how and what way we have to take up the industries after this pandemic crisis. Regarding the education space, I would like to say there are many issues are currently faced by the students, the teachers, and other stakeholders, including parents and other administrators, policymakers. There are so many issues are pertaining to education space. I would like to touch upon one or two important issues, especially the students of the final year in all disciplines. They have to complete their examination. Some of them have already been issued placement order. Some of them have got letters of intent for admission in foreign universities. And many of them are about to face placement and training. And in the school education sector, the 10th standard examination is yet to be completed. And the 12th examination valuation is to be completed. The professional education admissions as well as arts and science education admissions are to be concluded, and the next academic year should be started. These are all some of the issues because of the pandemic crisis. I am sure all these issues will be sorted out in the month of July and August, and hopefully next academic year will start from the month of September. Being these issues are there, now it is up to us to understand such a crisis may happen not only this time but any point of time across the globe. We have to prepare ourselves, as pointed out by Hawking, the leading physicist of England. Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. My issue today is the present curriculum is very obsolete, and it was framed about 20-30 years before. Now it is up to us to completely revamp the curriculum as well as the structure and the syllabus of both undergraduate, masters, as well as other higher degrees. Say, for example, the higher order thinking skills is to be implemented at the earliest in many of the universities across the globe. This higher order thinking skills is an important component which comprises of analyzing, synthesizing, applications, creative skills, and also inculcate in the minds of the students the innovative skills so that the employability of the students in the industries may happen at the rapid speed. So it is very, very important that all universities in India should think about higher order skilling. in addition to this kind of a revision of the syllabus, the curriculum should also incorporate at least 50% of the subjects or courses to be online, because online learning is happening in the Western world for many, many years. But in India, because of the lack of infrastructural facilities, the online learning is happening here and there, but it is very, very scanty. It is high time that all universities and higher learning institutions should make infrastructural facilities for higher order for online learning. There are many online platforms are available both at MHRD as well as UGC, like Swayam Portal, Swayam Prabha, Coursera, QEEE, and many others. And there are number of MOOC courses, that is massive open online courses are available. And in the curriculum, it should be an inbuilt curriculum in which the students should have the flexibility to select minimum 50% of online courses. And if the student is completing the online courses, the correct weightage and the credit should be given, and the student should be counted for the total number of credits, and the student may be awarded degrees. Similarly, now if you look at the master's degree students like ME, MSc, MA, they are waiting for the project work to be completed. Similarly, the PhD students, though they have completed their PhD and the examiner's report have been received, but the project, I mean the Viva Voce examination is not able to complete it. Now it is high time that the Viva Voce examination as well as project evaluation for the master degree students like ME students and MA, MSc students, it should happen through video conferencing, and the Indian examiner or the foreign examiner may be invited through video conferencing. These are all some of the points. Regarding this examination system also, our examination system is also very good old examination system, and it's high time that we have to revamp the examination system, in which we have to include the digital pad using the digital pen. The students may be asked to use digital pad with a digital pen in writing the examination, and the virtual script of the answer should be put into the cloud, which is highly secured, and the inbuilt system should be there. And it should be made available to the faculty members to value the scripts on the screen, and then they will send back to the cloud without much of a hassle, without much of the trouble. It can be evaluated, and the students, if such a facilities are made available, then it will be very easy for the students to get clear all this examination under such a crisis. So there is an urgent need across India that proper infrastructural facilities should be created both for online learning, online teaching, and also online testing. Instead of going for essay type questions, paragraph questions, the students' domain knowledge as well as the ability should be tested, as like in Western country, multiple choice questions to be asked in the online questions, and that will improve not only the testing of the knowledge, but also the intelligence of the student can also be tested. These are all some of the scope which is available, and we have to think, as I rightly pointed out, intelligence is to be adopted for change. Thank you very much for this opportunity. We look forward that such a kind of changes in the education space will happen soon in India, and I am sure many of the students will not have any hassles in completing that program and go to placement as well as higher studies both in India as well as abroad. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanking you, everyone.
Thank you very much, sir. Next, I will call upon Shri Ilanahai, who's the Chairman Managing Director of CITEX Petrochemicals. He's a chemical engineering graduate from the 1976 batch. He's worked in the petroleum and petrochemical industry for over 25 years and has worked at companies such as Indian Oil Corporation, Sanmar, and Nagarjuna groups. Last 20 years, he's been an entrepreneur. CITEX Petrochemicals was acquired from the RPG group in 2004, and under his leadership, they have increased the capacity by 5 times and sales by 8 times. They manufacture SBA, MEK, MIBC, and few other aroma chemicals. He is also the president of Chemical Industries Association, past president of Manali Industries Association, and past president of the Annamalai Alumni Association. Finally, he is the founder of Mudal Mori, an initiative for Tamil development by Annamalai University. Welcome, sir. I ask you to please say a few words about your observations on the current situation and how it has affected your industry.
Vanakkam. Good evening to all of you. Before I talk about the issues faced by the chemical sector, I just want to highlight the magnitude of the chemical sector in India. There are 80,000 chemicals produced in India, and India's GDP, the chemical industry contribution is around 2.1%. And today, India, the production volume is in the terms of USD is $170 billion. And in 5 years, we are poised to grow to the $300 billion level. And Indian chemical industry is 3.4% of the global chemical industry. And India chemical industry exports 14% of the total global chemical exports. And chemical exports from India is 10% of the total exports from India. And the growth forecast for the next 5 years was 9%. And if you look at the PE investment in India in chemical sector, is around $2 billion in the last 5 years. This shows the magnitude of the chemical sector. And another point is that chemical sector, when we talk, we cannot ignore the oil and gas sector. Right from ONGC to Indian oil refineries, Reliance refineries, like these 25 mega projects are there in oil and exploration, refining and petrochemical. They may contribute to the tune of 10 lakh crores, which is the biggest investment in India. And today's oil prices are falling, and which may not be good in the long term. Today we may gain something, but the problem is our Indians who are working in the Middle East may lose jobs. And not only that, even for the Indian local producers, $20, $15 per barrel is not viable. So we have to think of a reasonable price, that what our government is always talking about, one crude, one price, somewhere around $40 to $60 per barrel would be the right thing to do. And right now, the Indian government can take the benefit out of the price drop. But unfortunately, in the last 2 months, the petroleum consumption growth is almost dropped by 60% in petrol, diesel and all. Only liquefied petroleum gas is being used by the domestic sector, and all the refineries are producing maximum LPG because of the COVID. And other products demand has come down, and this year the petroleum sector may see a negative growth. This is the beginning. Not only that, if you take the other chemical sector also, because of the petroleum products price fall, the petrochemical and chemical prices will fall. So that will again contribute 10% drop in the sales revenue. Another thing, the demand is also not going to pick up immediately. Many companies are running at now 50 to 60% capacity level chemical industry. We started, in fact, my company started April 4th, 5th itself. And that whatever we produce, we could supply to the pharma companies. And that is how 50, 60% capacity we could maintain. And pharma companies were running apart from refineries during the lockdown period also. And chemical industries, another challenge is after the COVID, when they start, they face a lot of safety issues. What happened in Vizag is a typical example. What happened in Neyveli in the boiler explosion is a typical example. So we have to be very, very careful after the COVID-19 when we are starting the chemical industries. We face a lot of safety issues. So we have to be very careful. The chemical industry growth, another challenge in India is the environment issue. Chemical industry means today a common man thinks it is a polluting industry. So we have to change the mindset of the people, and chemical is a necessity product, and it is used in the pharmaceutical, it is used in the household, lot of application. So we are educating the people in this level. And the China effect, because of the trade war between the US and China, there is an opportunity for India to grab the business. And now, after the COVID, many multinational companies, they want to move away from China, South Korean companies, Japanese companies, and US companies. So Indian government, as well as the Tamil Nadu government, has worked out the strategies how to attract these investments to India. The main hurdle when the investors abroad they come, the problem what they face is land acquisition. The land is not available at the right price when they want to come and invest. It takes a couple of years for them to locate the land, purchase, and close the deal. Second is the getting approvals from various agencies. That also takes a lot of time. This is the problem which the multinational companies face in India. Not only multinational companies, even the local industries, when they want to expand or when they want to go to some other state, they face this problem. So Indian government is aware of this, and all the state governments are working on this. And in fact, each government, state government is competing with each other to attract the investment. Hope it will attract more investments to Tamil Nadu, and I'm sure definitely we may get one naphtha cracker and one refinery in the coming days to Tamil Nadu. See, naphtha cracker is a basic petrochemical plant. From there only you get the raw material for chemical and petrochemical industries. So India, there is a potential for 4 more naphtha crackers in the coming days. And South, particularly Tamil Nadu, may get one and Andhra may get one. But the investment is very huge. The local investors cannot invest 50,000, 60,000 crores. So we have to depend on multinational companies or foreign direct investment for this naphtha cracker and big project. Second thing, technology also, India, we are not in a position to develop specialty chemicals in India without the technology support from companies like Dow, BASF and all. This is another challenge. It's better to work with MNCs as joint venture and learn the technology, and that's what happening in Western region. Many multinational companies have come to Western region. So more chemical industries are coming up in Gujarat and Maharashtra. Tamil Nadu, after 90s, I don't think any big industry has come. Only some expansion have happened in Tamil Nadu. Why this is? Because the Gujarat and Maharashtra, they have supply source as well as finished products, they can sell it there. From Tamil Nadu, if I want to bring the products from there, I have to pay logistics cost, and again my product has to go to Western region. So overall growth should take place in Tamil Nadu and Southern region. Then we will be very happy to invite MNCs for Tamil Nadu. In fact, our freight cost to Singapore is much less than our freight cost to Mumbai and Delhi. That is why we are in a position to export my company 30 crores to Singapore company, Chevron Voronoi. And we are finding it difficult to compete with traders in North region because our freight cost is more. This is another challenge for the chemical industry, how to minimize the logistics cost. And India, the growth potential is very high. From this present $170 billion, in 5 years, we can achieve $300 billion. And this is a very challenging option for Indian chemical businessmen. And with the support of the Indian government, we would achieve that. And another thing, that the migrant labor problem is not much in chemical sector. Chemical sector compared to the engineering sector, we have less people. It's mostly automated. In fact, there is a potential for IoT in chemical sector. We can go for digital in chemical sector. So we can reduce the manpower in chemical sector, and we can use the manpower more efficiently in other sectors. The chemical engineering course in India was there for long years. In Annamalai University, we had the chemical engineering course more than 56 years back. So it is a very, very reputed institution next to IIT and AC College of Technology, and we produce very good chemical engineers. They work in many big corporates in India. So I think we have to train and develop our chemical engineers and to face the challenges. I'm sure that with the government support, we can overcome the issues faced by the corona during this last 45-50 days. And in fact, the chemical industries are the one first came out of this crisis, and we started in the April first week itself in big industries in Tamil Nadu. Almost all 30-40 big chemical industries we started in the April first week. But small industries are one by one, they are starting now. And India, the coming days, we have to focus more on specialty chemical than commodity. Because commodity is $1 product and which may not make very high margin. Whereas in specialty chemical, $10, $20, $30 product, we can make good margin. And these specialty chemicals, they go into the lube additives, they go into the paint, they go into the aroma chemicals, which is flavor and fragrance industry. I think we will focus on specialty chemicals in the coming days, and that will give better profit margin for the industries, as well as it will give good export potential for Indian chemical sector. I think with this, I would like to conclude my first round, and I will be happy to join if there is any query in the next round. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think a lot of very interesting points which you have pointed out. For instance, the fact that chemical industry is automated to such a heavy extent comes as news, at least to me. So we will definitely get back to you in the later rounds and have a lot of questions for you, I'm sure. Next, I would like to call upon Sri Murali Shankar, who is the Managing Director of Super Auto Forge from Chennai. He is a graduate of the Mechanical Engineering branch in 1982. He's then went on to do an IIT MTech from IIT Madras and PG Diploma in Decision Support Systems from IIM Ahmedabad. He started his career at Sundaram Fasteners and 5 years later joined Super Auto Forge, which is a family business. He's responsible for its R&D. Super Auto Forge is a tier 1 company for automotive OEMs and is the largest manufacturer of cold and warm forging parts in the country. It is one of the few companies in India which specialize in cold and warm forging of aluminium, and almost 65% of their components are exported to major OEMs across the globe. They have 4 manufacturing locations in Chennai and employ more than 1,000 people with offices in North America and Europe. Welcome, sir. I ask you to kindly say a few words on what your experience with the latest pandemic has been.
Yeah. Thank you, Vijay. Good evening, everybody. I come from a manufacturing sector. And if you really look at in India, the manufacturing sector is almost, the majority of the manufacturing sector is MSMEs. I would say 65 to 70% of the manufacturing is predominantly MSME. And this is the MSME is the one which brings in a lot of employment also and a lot of variety into the manufacturing. During this lockout period, the manufacturing industry is one which is really affected due to so many reasons. Because when in a manufacturing sector, when the lockdown came, people were not prepared for the lockdown. Say a lot of equipments, a lot of machineries, they just, some of these smaller companies, they just left it as such. And similarly, the finished products, the finished goods which were ready, because the lockdown came at a period during the year end. So most of these manufacturing, as usual, every year end, they want to project the sales. So they were that last 1 week where they were really picking up. This lockdown came and a lot of items were in finished stage and they have not taken adequate care to preserve them. That's one of the major, I would say, challenge to them. And because of this COVID, these MSMEs are facing so many, manufacturing sector is facing so many problems. The first one will be the working capital. Say normally these manufacturing sector, they have a credit period of almost ranging from 45 days to say, 70 days with the customers. And with their deliveries happening by middle of March. So starting from end of this month, they are not going to get any inward from their customers for the next 2 months. So, but whereas the overheads like salaries, because the government has given a directive that they cannot lay out any employees, whether it is direct or indirect, and also they have to give them the salaries. So that's going to be a huge one. And second, unlike other sector, MSME and manufacturing sector specifically consumes a lot of power. And most of these companies, they have the high tension connection. And especially in the high tension connection, they have these fixed MD charges. If you have a 5 megawatt connection, you end up paying almost close to 40 lakhs as a fixed MD. And without using a single unit of power, today all the companies have to pay this amount. So some of the states in India, they have already waived, and we have already taken up with the state government and central government to give this waiver to the manufacturer, to the MSMEs also, and also to the manufacturing. So second one, as I said, the working capital. When it comes to the working capital, even though banks have given 3 months for all the loans and all, but now currently when the lockdown is is lifted and manufacturing or the customers are going to start their operations, they are not sure which product is going to be required by the customer. So they have to, some of them may have the raw material, otherwise some of them have to get the raw material. So one is the procuring the raw material on time to meet the customer, which is going to be a challenge. Again, most of these for the manufacturing sector, the raw material, some of them have to come from North India. Again, the transportation is going to be a problem. Even though the government has relaxed, again, the availability of drivers for the transportation is a big challenge. Then another major area is, as we start our operations, whether most of these manufacturing sector employ the migrant labor. The migrant labor can be from other states, or it can be from within the state, from down to the rural areas. So there's going to be a big challenge in getting those people back. And if you really look at most of the cities are suffering from this virus attack, COVID, and some of the rural areas are still, they are safe. So the human mentality is going to be better to stay safe rather than expose yourself to this virus attack. So next, as we start for the next, I would say even for 2-3 months, getting the laborers and getting the employees is going to be a big challenge for the entire manufacturing industry. Then as we start, the requirement from customers, say this, we are not going to have a sudden ramp up. As everyone is going to face the same challenge, whether it be in auto sector or any other sector, probably the first quarter of this financial year, practically April is gone, and May hardly a week of production or 10 days of production will be there. June it will be, I foresee a 25 to 30% requirement, and the second quarter will be around another 40% requirement, and only in third quarter we may cross 50%, and the last quarter can be a 70% of the capacity utilization, which means if you really look at it, we will be only utilizing 50% of our capacity as compared to the last year. Of course, the last year was again a 15 to 20% drop from the previous year due to so many reasons. We were talking about in the automotive sector, we were talking about Bharat 6, and then also the e-vehicles So because of that, there were a lot of the production was down. And second, the infrastructure activities also came down. So the main challenge is going to be how our customers are going to ramp up. So so even though you have a capacity, you won't have the market to sell these products. And another major area challenge for startup is most of these small companies, they also have a lot of CNC machines and all. Say how they are going to maintain, because when you are, especially the MSMEs, they won't have that wherewithal to have a separate experts or a maintenance team to start all these machines. They all depend on the suppliers for this. And today in this time, the availability of the service engineers are going to be a big challenge. Bigger companies, they have their in-house maintenance team who will be able to start these machines. Whereas MSMEs are going to face a major challenge in starting all these machines. As Mr. Ildangai said, even a lot of manufacturing sectors, they have their own boilers. They also use a lot of gases and chemicals. So starting all those things is going to be a challenge, and it's a safety. They have to have a lot of safety procedures to have trouble-free startup. And added to that, we now, especially we are used to having a crowded place, walking in a crowded, lot of meetings we used to have. We are used to that kind of culture. Now social distancing and also safety in terms of preventing this COVID, that's also going to be a huge challenge. For example, when we started our operations a couple of days back, we have to engage almost close to 12 to 13 buses with 50% or only with 50% capacity, just to avoid social distancing. So these challenges are going to be a major one, especially for the MSMEs. And again, the employees or the workers who are going to be there, you have to really educate them. You have to make them aware how this is going to be very important to avoid the recurrence of this virus, and also how they will not carry this virus from their environment to the factory. Say in between when the government opened up, they said if there is one case found in a manufacturing sector, the CEO will be charge sheeted and the company will be locked down. Then all of us took up this with the government. Now they have relaxed this. But if there are going to be cases in your company, then there's going to be a fear psychosis, and even your employees will not come. So it's a big challenge for us to ensure and prevent that we don't get any COVID positive case within our employees. So that's going to be a challenge. After talking so much of challenge, we also have a lot of positives coming out of this COVID. Say, entire global community is fed up with China in terms of this, the way they behaved during this pandemic, the way that they were not transparent. So that is creating a lot of opportunities, especially for the manufacturing sector. And India, as you are all aware, India has got a very good base in terms of technology, and one of the biggest our plus point is communication, especially in a manufacturing where a discipline is important and communication is very important. We have a big advantage, and there is already we have got a lot of inquiries. As my former speaker said, Japan and South Korea has already openly, their government has created a fund for their industries to move out of China. The similar things is going to happen in North America as well as Europe. So we are going to have a lot of opportunities, but this opportunity has to be capitalized quickly. For that, again, MSMEs require huge support from the government. Some kind of a cluster and some kind of a technology upgradation, a lot of things have to happen. Of course, the bigger companies are advantageously positioned, but MSMEs have to get a lot of support from the government. And if we are able to be successful, then next financial year, we can look for a positive growth. So with this, I would like to conclude my thing, and I will be happy to participate in the question and answer division.
Thank you, sir. Very insightful observations, and glad to hear that it's not all gloom and doom. That there are a lot of opportunities also which will arise from this. Next, I would like to call upon Shri URC Devarajan, who's the Chairman and Managing Director of URC Constructions. He is a graduate from the Civil Engineering branch in 1984. URC Constructions is now 140 million US dollar company. They are established in 11 states and employ more than 7,000 people. They have worked on very large projects such as some of the portions of the metro project in Bangalore. They have executed over 600 projects all across India with very high level of success and have not failed their commitment even once. So welcome, sir. Please say a few words on how you see the pandemic affecting your sector.
Good evening to all of you, and good evening to Vice Chancellor, and salute to the founder of our university who has made all of us to connect like this. One small line of Tamil I would like to say. A friend of mine who has written a poem during our 30th year reunion. இது 5 ஆண்டுகளுக்கு ஒரு முறை மாறுகின்ற ஆட்சி அல்ல, 5 புலன்களும் அடங்கும் வரை மாறாத சாட்சி. Meaning, we will continue to be friends and coordinate with each other as till we breathe, last breath. So in such a wonderful community we are as Annamalaians, it is great to talk in a forum like this. Great people are there in the panel. And I represent in today's discussion the construction and real estate, probably the construction service, or equally, infrastructure also. Infrastructure industry, you would have all listened to or heard the announcement made by the Government of India, like 114 lakh crore will be invested in the coming years to make India a better place to do business with. And a lot of activities have already started. Smart city, you all know, each city has got 1,000 crore, and Erode is also one among the smart cities. I am an independent director in the smart city, so I am able to experience the kind of money, the projects that is being done. So 100 cities, it is 1 lakh crore. Apart from that, national highway, in a big way, they are investing and a lot of works are going on. Railway is getting highly modernized. 400 or more stations are being, slated to be modernized. Each station may have 100 to 400 crore worth of investment, like it will become like any other country station with all modern facilities. So that is another opportunity. And all the coach maintenance factories of the railway are getting modernized. And the Government of India has initiated a lot of projects to connect the Northeast with the mainland for various safety reasons and the defense reasons. That is also a great opportunity. So, and apart from that, everywhere, every nook and corner, if you travel, you could see some kind of construction activity across India is happening now. That is the, middle income group. The increase in the middle income group was the reason for that. But in such a situation, this COVID-19 has suddenly put a break on all the activities. But like Mr. Ilanagai said, we are also were allowed to revive our work immediately, state by state. Like Orissa, they have allowed us to start the work 1 month back. And Maharashtra, in some of the places, they have allowed us to do the work. In Bangalore, in Karnataka, they have allowed us to do the work. In Visakhapatnam, it has never been stopped. They have allowed us to work. So it is a different situation in different states, how each state has taken it. And in Kerala also, See, because this COVID-19, like our former speaker said, the social distancing and the kind of facility each company has got to accommodate their workers. We as an industry, we seldom get any local people. Most of our workers, like 5,500 means, it may be close to 4,000 people are migrant workers. It may be the case with Sapurji and Pulunji, Afghans or L&D. For all the companies, you would have seen a lot of labor camps that may have to be modernized, or it has to go for a bigger change. To attract the workers, we may have to go for that. But connecting to manufacturing, we import a lot of machinery even today from China, like the metro launching girders, kind of things. Of course, the boom placers, concrete mixers, and all the concrete patching plants, all those equipments, earth moving equipments, everything is now being manufactured by MNC companies within India. But still there is a lot of scope, a lot of machineries are being imported from China. Probably if companies concentrate on that, that will become a great opportunity for manufacturing also. Coming to, the biggest challenge again is the liquidity issue. Like any other industry, we also have a lot of fixed costs, term loans and other things. As a company of our size, we will be losing close to 12 crore minimum every month. You can understand the kind of impact that will happen in companies like L&D or bigger companies like Sapurji or Nagarjuna and other places. And we are also operating on a thin margin of 2 to 3% because a lot of uncertainties or ifs and buts are there in every contract agreement. So these are all important things. There is a lot of discussions are going on in the last 45-50 days by the industry. We have CIDC, Construction Industry Development Corporation, a government initiated body in which we are all part of it, and Construction Federation of India, Builders Association of India are all there. But unfortunately, we can come under several ministries, so there is no focus to our industry for issues to be resolved. So we used to go to the Finance Ministry, we used to go to the Urban Development Ministry. So we are all wondering how collectively we can bring all our issues to take the next decade forward, when 114 lakh crore is to be invested, but smart cities to be there, all modernization, roads, everything. But unlike other industries, foreign companies to come and establish in India and become a larger construction entity is always a challenge in Indian conditions because of the labor laws or because of the culture in which we are engaging our labor. Always there used to be a challenge. Many companies have come into India and failed. So we all are discussing like how do we cope up and develop ourselves to make ourselves ready for the future opportunities. And the other impact, like it is estimated like 5 crore direct laborers are engaged in this industry, plus 10 crore indirect laborers are there, put together 15 crore. If you even calculate 2% from this into the family, there may be 30 crore of Indians will be directly connected to the construction activity. And this is one biggest responsibility for the policy makers also to do the right policies. And with respect to real estate, it is something like commercial versus residential. In commercial, like somebody has posted, TCS have decided to only engage 30% of their people in the office premises, means it is a larger impact will be there for the commercial real estate, where IT spaces and other places. It may be a new norm for the commercial real estate space, but marketplace and other things. I am part of a larger commercial real estate promotion where it is like a business center, Tex Valley, where we are seeing a lot of bookings in this particular COVID season because it is a marketplace, whereas a textile marketplace, whereas commercial real estate in other sense may have an impact. But residential spaces, we all have heard in the last 3 to 4 years, there was a lull in the residential market because all the promoters have bigger projects with larger houses, with higher volume of investment, whereas the economically viable houses were promoted, but it is yet to take place in every metro cities. And also the metro, the liking towards the metro may also taper down for at least another 2 years. Many people may think it is better to live in a smaller town or in a rural place. These are all the psychological issues which may reduce the demand for the real estate assets. But I personally, in my own opinion, with all the discussions with various people, in 6 months' time, when all of us revive the operations in a very careful way, we can definitely bring back the economy and the demand, and it will definitely employ more people. But with respect to salaries and the job cut, it has to be there for another 6 months or so. We cannot help it. We don't have a wherewithal to withstand in the original situation. So these are all, and we as a company, when we have employed so many people, close to 1,400 people on a monthly salaried staff, like engineers, managers, and others, all of them have understood. It all depends. If you are able to withstand this pandemic situation, then your success is assured for several more years. It all depends on how you have, in the past, how you were with your people. If you are very good, transparent, and good to them, they will realize and they will cooperate for any kind of moderation or change or reduction in salary. This is our experience. And yes, definitely the volume of revenue will go down to 60% or even 50%. These are all some of the things. And one more thing, few years back, the Labor Commissioner of Tamil Nadu has initiated a discussion with me. Can we create labor housing in metro cities or larger cities, which will be owned by the government? Any construction entity, like in Singapore, will be asked to make their people stay in a safer place. So these are all the new ideas that may emerge by every government, because though we all face challenges, if you see with the economical condition, it is very difficult for all of us to give them a very hygiene, good place to stay, though we all put our best efforts. For example, we had put, we have executed the Ramanujam IT City. For the stay of 1,300 people, we have invested close to 4 crore on the labor colony alone. We had installed a chapati making machine. We have installed a very huge laundry machine. We have taken care of many things, and we have transported them with 16 buses. We always believe, why only the IT industry, why not the construction industry also can treat our laborers well? But these are all things, industry across, if everyone think alike, and if we feel there is a social responsibility for all of us. So if we all work in a very sensitive manner, I believe the years coming will be a better year. Like our VC said, the education system will make a big change in the way things are happening, skilling them, and all these things will go together, or the artificial intelligence in every aspect of the construction activity also, technology intervention, modernization. This is time for Indian companies to really think and overcome the challenges and live up to the expectation of the government to execute larger projects. With respect to house construction contractors and small-time government contractors, probably their orders are assured. Only thing, the revival has to happen with proper safety and health care readiness. This is my initial thought for this panel discussion. Thank you everyone for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Very insightful, especially I think some of the response from the government to take care of migrant labor. We will definitely get back to that. Next, we have Shri S. Damodaran, who's the Executive Vice President of Sai Life Sciences. He's a graduate of the chemical engineering branch, 1989. He has experience of almost 30 years with API and fine chemical companies in varied fields such as operations, process engineering, technology absorption, and project functions. Sai Life Sciences is a $100 million company based out of Hyderabad and is associated with many of the big pharma companies. It helps them to develop medicines for unmet needs. He was earlier headed operations and R&D at Sai Life Sciences and currently heads a futuristic initiative uh, focusing on operational excellence, new technologies, and is responsible for transforming the organization to a next generation CDMO. He is a veteran of this industry and has been associated with a number of companies such as Piramal Healthcare, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, etc. And I think that we are very lucky to have him, especially when topmost of many people's mind is what is our medicinal reaction to the whole COVID situation. We hear about testing every day. There are a lot of shortfalls, both in terms of availability of number of tests and time it takes to test. Of course, there are a lot of things which are being tried to from a medicinal perspective. So we're very lucky to have Mr. Damodaran with us. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Vijay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, viewers, and especially fellow Annamalaians. Good to connect to you in this session, although I don't think it's a sort of a pleasant situation for the whole world. First of all, my sincere appreciation to all the people who have taken the pains to organize this intervention with an appropriate theme. I consider this as a sort of a privilege to be talking to stalwarts, seniors, batchmates, juniors, and a lot of youngsters who are at the doorstep of their careers. I've been asked to present the pharma industry perspective on this COVID situation. So before I start off, when we say pharma, there are two broad types of companies. A set of companies which are in the innovation space, which concentrate on bringing new medicines, mainly the drug discovery for the unmet needs. I think the big pharmas like GSK, Lilly, Merck, Roche, these are the companies because drug discovery is a sort of an expensive and a sort of a very long drawn process. There is another set of companies which are called generic companies, which manufacture medicines off patent and make it more affordable and processes more efficient. So most of the Indian companies like Lupin, Dr. Reddy's, Aurobindo all fall in this category, though they might have all made attempts for discovering medicines, but most of them fall, the predominant business is in the generic space. So now, since I've been talking about the industry perspective, let me first concentrate on the generic space. So on the generic industry, I'm going to touch upon three broad areas. One is the supply chain, possible market trends, and potential opportunities. When it comes to supply chain, I think generic companies in India supply to both regulated as well as less regulated markets. When we say regulated markets, we have US, Europe, Japan. And when we say less regulated markets, it's LATAM, Asia Pac, and India. So India, if you go back 10 years, I think India had been very strong in the reverse engineering chemistry. We had sort of a good chemistry skill set. We were good in process optimization. So we were doing very well. So what happened post the late 90s, what exactly happened was, I think the companies when they got exposed to the regulated markets, they got more greedy. So what happened was they started filing more and more drug master files in the interest to tap the regulated market, which was mainly US and Europe. In the process to be in the race, how many DMFs do I file this year? What happened is they lagged on their strength. They missed their strength, which was actually chemistry. So they started buying advanced intermediates from other organizations and started doing the last two steps in the formulation and doing the filings. So what happened slowly, because more and more companies were doing the filings, the intermediates started moving out of the country, and finally China started manufacturing most of these intermediates. Somebody will be alarmed if we say almost like 60% of the India's API needs, API means active pharmaceutical ingredient needs, come from China. In case of certain areas like cephalosporins, anti-infectives, the dependency is as high as 85%. In some cases, we are single sourced. So this COVID lockdown has really exposed the fragile supply chain of the Indian pharma. And so in some cases, even the global pharma companies were caught unawares. Now, this leads me to the market trends. What might happen in the coming days? So in the domestic market, I don't see much of an impact, except that some of the prices of some of the drugs may rise maybe 10 to 15%, if not already. There may be temporary shifts in the consumption pattern because people are not, I would say, eating out, people are not traveling much. There could be some temporary shifts in the drug consumption pattern. There could be like anti-infectives could be selling lesser, pain management could be lesser. But I think this is going to be a sort of a temporary phenomenon till we get out of this situation. But what is going to happen is many big pharma companies, which is the GSKs and the Lillys of the world, they are likely to reduce their supply chain dependence on China. It's not only the big pharma, but most countries in the world, there is a sort of a general resentment against China. So what they are going to do is they are going to spread their supply chain across geographies. When they spread it, I think there would be some of the products will also flow out of India, but net, I feel India would stand to gain. So this is one industry probably where the COVID impact is likely to be neutral to slightly positive in the long run. Then retrovirals, which is the antiviral drugs. These are going to be taking the center stage for a few more years, because I don't think there is a possibility of a new drug development for COVID, because this is going to be a sort of a phenomenon, and every drug discovery takes 6 to 8 years. What might happen is there will be repurposing some of the existing drugs for the various virus strains. That might happen. And the vaccine race is likely to continue. The vaccine race, but from a pragmatic level, I think a good vaccine is probably around 8 to 10 months away from now. But this actually could lead to a lot of opportunities and shifts for the Indian pharma. When I say when there is going to be a sort of a geographical spread of the supply chain of the big pharma, India has got a terrific track record of chemistry and filings and good communication. So I think India can definitely potentially benefit from this shift. What we need to do is we have to become more efficient. We have to operate to our strengths. So there are some possible opportunities in supplying advanced intermediates to the larger pharma companies. Even in India, let's say, for example, you have companies like Lupin, DRL. Today, they are sourcing a lot of the advanced intermediates from China. This could now actually come back to India. So I think there is the MSME companies which can probably potentially tap this opportunity and start supplying advanced intermediates to the larger companies. So I think this also will be in line with our Prime Minister's intent of moving towards self-sufficiency. At least on the essential commodities, I think every country should try and become self-sufficient. So a lot of small pharma companies can potentially benefit from this. But as you know, the pharma is a sort of a red category from the environment side. So there is a sort of a government support which is needed, which will help. The government has to help in creating sort of pharma clusters, make the land allotment process easier, make the environmental clearance easier. And also in our field, what happens is we can't keep on manufacturing a single drug for a long period. So we may need to switch products quickly because we run in very, very short campaigns. So I think every time we don't need to go to the pollution control board. They should make that process much easier. And one of the other big shift which is to happen is the operational excellence, because finally the whole world, the US generic market or the EU generic market is all very, very, I would say, cost sensitive. So having gotten used to the Chinese intermediates from which we were adding on the stages, I think the price points are by and large frozen. So I think the Indian companies, when they start manufacturing these intermediates or APIs, they should become more efficient. They should look at process excellence. They should look at the chemistry skill set. And for that, I think we need to invest significantly on the R&D. Another thing which is likely to happen is technology, adoption of technology. As somebody was telling, the migrant laborers, most of them have moved back. So labor is not going to be easy to find. So what we may need to do is adoption of more automation, mechanization. So this is likely to happen. In fact, in the R&D center in our company, I think we have started flexible timings. So to give sort of social distancing comfort, we have started operating in shifts. Generally, the plants operate in shifts. The R&Ds used to work in general shifts. But now I think this has brought in a completely different scenario. We have started operating in the shifts. And suddenly we are posed with the situation that we don't need to set up a project. I think we are able to accommodate more chemists in the existing center. So a project which was going to cost us 30-40 crore has been called off, and we are able to accommodate that. It has actually brought in a sort of a completely different perspective. Then digitization, because all the OEMs who supply equipments to us, I think remote monitoring is going to be the key, because OEMs are not going to travel frequently. They are not able to come to different centers because of the travel bans across states, across countries. So I think remote monitoring, digitization, data acquisition, these are going to be some of the, I think the pharma has always been slow to adopt technology because of, I would say, concerns around the FDA and things like that. And that is probably going to see a sort of a sea change in the coming years. Even the customer audits or the, I would say, FDA audits of the different countries, these are going to see a sort of a strategic shift. You may see probably remote audits. Most of the things would be online, and we should be able to submit all the records online. And there are possibilities in the next 3-4 years, we may move to e-audits, which probably would be sort of a path-breaking technology for the pharma industry. Even the customer visits to the factories. We have actually invested in a technology where you wear the Google glasses and walk through our plants, and we are able to transmit to the customer so that they can audit the plants directly, remotely. So these are certain things which are likely to happen. So this is what I feel as a sort of a overall canvas for the generic industries. Coming to the innovation side of it. So wherein I think companies are investing money and time in discovering new medicines. So there are two sets of companies, again, the big pharmas and the so-called venture capital funded biotechs in the US and Europe. So all this, what is going to happen is, I think the fund flow into this, I would say, biotechs is going to slightly slow down. So when it slows down, what happens? Everybody tries to conserve cash and play the wait and watch game. So the new medicines, which most of it mostly was cancer drugs or central nervous system drugs, these may see a little bit of a slowdown. But what might happen is there might be a lot of repurposing of the existing drugs. A lot of research will happen in probably finding different therapeutic effects of the existing drugs. Though the NCE space may see some slowdown, the slowdown can be because of multiple things. One, it could happen because of fund constraints. It could also be because of lesser volunteer recruit. Because for all of this, we need healthy volunteers to volunteer themselves for the trials, for the clinical trials. If they are not available, if the hospitals are running full in the US and Europe, there could be some sort of a challenge. But one thing is very clear, significant amount of the innovation contracts were going to China. Almost like 60 to 70% of the activity in the innovation space, which was outsourced, was going to China. So this is one area where I would say contract development and manufacturing organizations will see a sort of a huge upside. Companies like ours, which is in the CDMO space, companies like Syngene, Suven, Anthem, if they play their cards right, I think there is a sort of a significant potential for these companies to convert whatever is flowing out of China into India. The mature drugs, which are likely to see a little downside, but there could be a sort of a potential slowdown in the lead compound progress. The another area where India can significantly gain is biology. Traditionally, India has been very, very weak in biology services when it comes to DMPK, drug metabolism, pharmacokinetics. These are actually very important elements of the new drug discovery. So this is an area where India has not been very successful. They do have some services which are being offered, but almost like China offers them a sort of a bouquet of services. And that's why most of the companies flock to China. So in spite of all of this, we have to learn from China about the speed and efficiency. And that is the reason why US and Europe companies still like China, in spite of having the significant resentment against their behaviors, against their transactional model. In spite of that, they like China because of the, I would say, speed and efficiency they deliver. I think the silver lining is we have to learn from this. There is a significant potential. The canvas is being laid out, and it is for the government and industry to work in close coordination. And if we do that, I think the pharma industry could see a sort of a 15 to 20% upside in the coming years. That's what I feel would be the pharma industry perspective. Of course, when we work, I think there are going to be the same regulations like social distancing, avoiding, I would say, contacts, because finally we are making life-saving drugs which are actually directly taken by people. I think in the pharma space, we have to be more careful than most other industries. It's not about infecting a single person. So we are supplying a sort of a drug which actually directly goes to the needy, and we have to be a little more careful. But if the government and the industry work together, I think for the pharma industries, there is a sort of a good silver lining in the coming years.
Thank you, sir. Very insightful, and I'm very surprised that China overtook India just a space of 10 years. So definitely at some point we should talk about why that happened structurally. How do we make sure it doesn't happen again in the pharma space? Next, I will call upon Sri Karthikeyan. He is a graduate from the Mechanical Engineering branch, 1992. He is the current head Global Rewards and a member of the India Board of NASPERS. He started his professional career in the Murugappa Group, and after some times in the manufacturing industry, went back to academics and completed his post-graduation in HR from XLRA Jamshedpur. He's been in various HR positions since then in companies like DuPont, Motorola, Levi's, and currently at NASPERS, he's heading Global Rewards. He's a certified executive coach. He's an alumnus of INSEAD, and apart from his profession, he's very passionate about agriculture, exploring cuisines and reading. He's also has a lot of experience in the IT and IT-enabled services field. So, Karthik, welcome. Please say a few words.
Vanakkam. Thank you, Vijay. Respected Vice Chancellor, our beloved teachers, and my dear friends. It's a great privilege and pleasure to connect with you all virtually today. I'm Karthikeyan. I was there in our campus between 1988 to 92. After college and a short stint in manufacturing, I transitioned to HR, and in my current job, I work with many tech startups. I'll begin with HR, then cover the startup scenario, and will be brief about IT and ITES. Firstly, from HR, from the employer side, all the crisis management plans and the business continuity plans the companies had mostly covered local crisis. This global crisis sent all the companies back to the drawing board to redo all their crisis management plans. So it's an evolving situation. In companies, employee safety and wellness were mostly insurance schemes, wellness programs, lectures on wellness, health checkups, and gym memberships. Going forward, focus will significantly shift to overall employee well-being, which will include emotional well-being, psychological, psychosocial, and morbidity. Employers must and will truly care for their employees and for their families. Superficial approach to this first C, which is care, may not be, without care, it will not be sustainable. The second C, communication, will become vital to sustain and also to foster culture. The sublime communication will be sharpened, and both internal and external communication will be a differentiator for organizations. Continuity will be challenged beyond just this discontinuity. We will see many plus continuity plans. Short-term plans will remain, but cautious, conservative, long-term plans across all sizes of organizations will become common. We have this 4-stage model in which stage 1 is reactive, stage 2 is dependent, stage 3 is independent. Independent stage, where there will be a higher level of preparedness and in-house resources to handle crisis. And this is exactly what we are still experiencing in the current situation and in most of the large organizations. The 4th stage in this model is interdependency, which will need a very higher level of collaboration, not just within the industry segment, but across industries. The 4th C is collaboration, and it may be even forced collaboration. We already see this happening in our HR circles, across companies, and even with government agencies. But whether it is care, communication, continuity, or collaboration, you all know it all boils down to costs. So stating the obvious, the cost models will change. Salaries are monthly cash flows, but revenue is not. Companies obviously will become conservative with cash. We will see increased emphasis on employee stock options, which basically defer cash flows, but create wealth on a long term. Deferred bonus plans that will shift monthly increments to annual outflows. And maybe more focus on retirement benefits. Shifting to the employee side of the HR aspect. Post-crisis, employee returning to work will be very different. We already see a lot of gratitude to what we have and significant raise in humanity. On the other hand, we also see social activism is also increasing. But the social activism increase is not in form of unions, but mainly through digital media. Any superficial approach by employer to care will be obviously trolled and rejected, and the digital media will even provide anonymity to this. So when it comes to care, it will be an outside in for the employee, which means the perceived care by the employee is what will make the difference, and not the provided care by the employer. Employees will expect complete transparency, authenticity, and assurance in communication. Employees will easily learn to eliminate the white noise and pick the intent of the communication. As you all know, ours is a non-welfare country. There is no social welfare that covers the citizens across. A job loss so will affect the entire family. Employees will not get carried away by just the lovey-dovey stuff and will seek assurance and smooth transition with adequate notice and time. So it's going to be challenging to balance the head and heart. So it's not just going to be multi-skilling, but multi-career may become the norm. I may choose to be a HR professional all my life, but maybe working for 2 or more companies at the same time. Or a multi-career may even mean a techie in a software company, a football coach, and an Ola or a Uber driver all at the same time. So multi-carrier, which reduces or eliminates the dependency on a single livelihood, will emerge. Switching to the startup scenario, startups that already have a very strong backing of large investors will mostly sail through, but with significant challenges. Particularly technology and tech-enabled startups will even experience surge and renewed interest from the investors. Many of the fintech startups, e-retail startups are already seeing a great opportunity. However, seed fund or pre-growth fund or pre-profitability funding may become very difficult. So there is going to be a lull before the startup scenario picks up. A lot will depend on government approach and participation towards not just the startups, but also small, medium businesses that are adversely impacted by this crisis. On the ITES front, most of you have already seen what's happening and aware of what's happening. Overnight, many large companies have moved from on-site to off-site models, which is basically working from home. It just happened overnight. And quoting Mr. Satya Nadella of Microsoft, this crisis has advanced the digitization by 2 years. It's like a video game, accelerated future, and we are already in it. This pilot that has largely proved to be successful will remain, and it will continue to be there. Data privacy, digital security, a new approach to how assets are managed will become the focus when this remote working settles down and starts becoming a normal way of working. Finally, to close, post the crisis, it will not be just a restart, but a complete reset. Not just the employees or companies, even the leadership will be very different. Dearth of leaders without experience to foresee future and predict without expertise will make leadership more critical and crucial for success of the organizations. While we need to adhere to the Lakshman Rekha for social distancing and to break that virus chain as stated by our Prime Minister, the Lakshman Rekha of our mental models have to be completely broken, or the mental mod or the imagined reality, the Lakshman Rekha of the imagined reality has to be completely broken. I wish to quote one of the renowned HR leaders of the Indian industry. What we say is we need to do another MBA, where M is to maintain the core and the continuity, and B is to break ruthlessly our mental models, and A is to align with the new reality. I am an optimist, but not a futurist. So what I share here in this forum is purely from my experience and a few little learnings that I've gathered along the way. But I'm very optimistic about the future, and particularly future of our country. Thank you, Vijay, and I'm ready to answer more questions when we get into the panel discussion. Over to you again.
Thank you, Karthik. I think you have raised very interesting points about the employees' point of view, and some of the challenges everybody really will be facing in the coming few months to a year, 2 years. Next, we have Shri Abhijit Kalampore, who's the Vice President, Mobility Solutions and Original Equipment Sales at Bosch. He is my batchmate and friend from the Mechanical Engineering batch of 1993. After that, he went on to do his MBA from Bharatiyar University in Finance and Operations. He's been with Bosch throughout his career, and he spent 25 years in the automotive field. He has an executive general management qualification from IIM Bangalore. He's been in Germany and then the UK on deputation for over 5 years. He has wide-ranging experience in logistics, marketing, heading a business unit, etc. And he currently is heading the sales operations for North India for Bosch, based out of Gurgaon. Welcome, Abhijit. Looking forward to your views.
Thank you, Vijay. Just a quick audio check. Can you hear me well?
Yes, you're perfectly audible.
Excellent. Thank you. So first of all, thanks to the Annamalai University Alumni Association for inviting me on this panel. I am privileged to be part of this great institution. And it is humbling to be on a panel with such illustrious panelists. Even what I've heard so far has been extremely enlightening. Last but not the least, I thank the audience with a special shout out to students who are going through this unprecedented situation in their lives, like Honorable Vice Chancellor also mentioned earlier. The topic has been named COVID apt. I would say it couldn't be more apt as we live out the current crisis. So before I start out on what's happening in the auto industry, I'll complete the story about what was happening in the industry before COVID. Now, the auto industry was going through a transformation, which Murali Shankar also touched upon. The emission standards, we went from BS4 to BS6 in about 2 years, whereas the rest of the world had about 10 years for the same transition. ABS, anti-lock braking systems, are now mandatory for passenger cars as well as two-wheelers and a certain segment of trucks. There were also some other aspects apart from technical aspects that had an impact, like third-party insurance was mandated for 3 years at the time of purchase of the vehicle. Axle loading norms increased by about 20%. And then there were a lot of macroeconomic positives, like checkposts being taken away, GST making business easier, etc. So this opened up a lot of capacity of the existing park of vehicles in the industry. Now, 2018 was one of the highest ever volumes touched by the auto industry. And 2019 was the year when most of the transformation was going to take place. And this saw, I think, the year 2019 saw a pretty big dip between 15 and 30%, depending on the segment. And it was one of the worst years the auto industry saw. Now, and all this before COVID. Now, COVID made a bad situation even worse. So it started with the supply shock of material coming out of China in February. And I relate to what Damodaran mentioned some time back. It was only then that the auto industry realized how much dependence the auto industry had on China. Thanks to localization, India was not as badly affected as companies in Europe and in the US, where production came to a grinding halt in February, whereas the Indian auto industry chugged along without a major problem until the lockdown was imposed to contain COVID. Now, I believe we have not yet gone into the demand shock. As you can imagine, when the lockdown is lifted, people would have cash flow issues. They may not have jobs. They are going to look for disinfectants and hand sanitizers. I don't think anybody is going to buy new cars, buses, or trucks. Now, what this means for the auto industry, there will be a survival crisis. I think a lot of you have spoken about this in the short run. I also expect that the industry would take about 6 to 8 years to come back to the 2018 peaks in terms of volumes. I wish I could be a little more optimistic than this, but we cannot go away from the fact that before COVID, we would have taken 4 to 5 years to get back to 2018 volumes because of the churn and transformation. And with COVID, it would get worse by another 2 to 3 years. Now, I will try and make it as optimistic as possible as we go along. Now, there is a need to adapt to health and safety norms, as well as radically changed consumer behavior in the industry. So right from procurement of raw materials to supply partners, supply chain partners to manufacturing, keeping social distancing norms, etc., is going to be a key challenge. And if you extend this right up to the sales and marketing process, the dealer network, and the user experience of consumers, there would be a need to digitize the entire chain, which then opens up a lot of opportunity, not just for the auto industry, but also for the IT sector to expedite digitizing across the value chain in automotive. Now, I believe in the short run, since buses and public transport can only use 60% of their ideal capacity to contain the infection, what this actually means in many large-scale industry is they need to double their fleet size for employee transportation. Now, this is going to be, I think, a second wind for the auto industry, especially for one particular segment. Now, I believe there would also be a shift away from public transport like metro and buses to more either shared mobility like Ola and Uber, or into private mobility like a car and a two-wheeler. So you already see articles on ET Auto and so on, and they are predicting that more people would start to use some sort of personal mobility, since they think that would be safer and they would be less exposed to risk of COVID. Now, we don't know exactly how this will support, but I'm sure if this kicks in strongly, then the time required to get back to the base of 2018 would probably be faster than the 6 to 8 years that I've been talking about. Now, with what's going on with people being scared for jobs, Karthik saying people would have to spread themselves thin across 2 or 3 jobs. So with money being a constraint, people would shift away from luxury towards more functionality, which means people would focus on getting something for moving from point A to point B, rather than focusing on luxury. Now, so far there has been a lot of debate about how fast can the market absorb technology, how fast can customers absorb technology. And I think with the COVID crisis, it has kind of opened everybody's eyes to what can happen if you adopt new technology. If you just press the reset button, don't do anything. There is news that you can see the Himalayas from 150, 200 kilometers away. People have seen flora and fauna thriving. People have seen better pollution levels across India. What this means, I believe, the customer appetite for technology solutions would be better. So people have already asked me what will happen to electrification. Would lower fuel prices set back electrification? No, I don't think so. In fact, people would think using technology would get them to a better place. I think thanks to technology and bandwidth, most of the industry is able to work, and I believe this would continue. Now, a lot of you have touched upon this point, so I won't harbor on this. Industry would try to de-risk their supply chains by localizing more. This was a lifeline for the auto industry already, in the sense that it could keep manufacturing until almost the lockdown was imposed, thanks to alternate supply routes, etc. So I think this would only increase in the coming few months and years. So that's it from my side. I look forward to an engaging conversation in the remaining part of our interaction. Thank you. Vijay, over to you.
Thank you, Abhijit. That was very insightful. And it's good to hear that it's all not gloom and doom for the auto industry. Our final panelist is Shri Vijay Subramaniam. He's the Managing Director, Alstom Transport India. He is a graduate of the Chemical Engineering branch from 1996, and he also has an MBA in Operations from Annamalai University. He has more than 25 years of experience in the core manufacturing domain and has worked at companies like the Aditya Birla Group, Saint Gobain, SPIC, etc. Currently, he heads Alstom's rolling stock manufacturing facility in Sri City. He is known for streamlining complex manufacturing processes, improving efficiency and productivity, besides other aspects of senior management such as greenfield, brownfield expansions, project management, operation, etc., etc. He's also an avid biker and plays all outdoor sports. Welcome, Vijay, to the conversation. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the subject.
Vanakkam. I hope I'm audible to all.
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thanks, Vijay. So thank you, Annamalai University Alumni Association, for this wonderful conference, though it's at a bad time in economy. Good evening, all. I'm Vijay Subramanian, heading the rolling stock business at Alstom Sri City. So just for information, we are the largest metros rolling stock manufacturer in India. It's indeed a great privilege and honor to share this virtual dais with all my fellow Annamalaians, and I really consider it a great honor talking on this occasion today. So for the first time in 167-year-old history, the Indian Railways cancelled all services of passenger trains, including suburban ones. So I think the nearest equivalent of this was the 54-day strike in 1974, when the trains did not run in the country. So that's the extent of the impact that this invisible enemy, has put the largest organization of India in the last couple of weeks. I'm sure you have also seen crude prices crashing to $1 per barrel, Dow Jones Index falling to 10,000, IR stopping its services. I think it's been a real unbelievable experience for most of us, right? I see this pandemic as the Titanic. I would like to keep this as an analogy of enterprise risk management. So as we all know, the unsinkable Titanic suffered just a glancing collision with an iceberg on the night of April 14, 1912. A half hour after the iceberg had opened 6 of the ship's 16 watertight compartments, it was not all apparent that the mighty vessel had been fatally wounded, as there was absolutely no evidence on the damage of the topside. So the ship was designed to survive 4 watertight compartments being compromised and could stay likely afloat if 5 were open to the sea, but that day all the 6 were actually open to the sea. So passengers were reluctant to heed the warning because it was at odds with their own perceptions. All of this just because the person at the crow's nest detected the iceberg just 30 seconds before and could not steer the ship in time. The evidence was undeniable, but humanity's first response was denial, regardless of the evidence. Evidence of the coronavirus that was contagious was also undeniable, as is the existence that carriers who have no symptoms can transmit the virus to others as well. Cut to our topic of discussion. So being the last in the sequence, I think you've already heard most of the people say about all the different issues. Most of the major industries that are hit are huge in size, capital intensive, diverse in operations and geography. None of the organizations or even nations could see the outbreak impact. And let's face it, we were not prepared for this eventuality. In terms of mitigation of supply chain disruptions, EHS protocols, isolation behaviors, and operation controls. So let me just talk about the industry in which I operate, which is the rolling stock. So I take great pride in mentioning that our factory was set up for the Chennai Metro. And all the trains that you see in Chennai are from our factory in Sri City. So this was set up in 2010 and is supplied to major projects like Chennai, Kochi, Lucknow, and international projects such as Sydney as well, and which is the first driverless configuration train So currently, we are also manufacturing for Mumbai Line 3, which is one of the largest businesses in India, which is for about 248 cars, and for Montreal. And we have more in the pipeline as well. So just to let you know on how big the industry is, Metro Trains business is classified into systems and infra, signaling, and rolling stock. And the major disruption has happened due to the supply chain getting disrupted, mainly because of the imports, followed by the government regulatory need to lock down in order to break the chain and so on. So just to give you a quick perspective on the Indian rolling stock market, which was witnessing steady growth, driven by new metros as well as extension of existing lines. So as of last year, a total of 2,100 plus rail cars are operational across 10 metro rail projects in India. The Delhi Metro has around close to 1,400 operational train cars, which is highest in the country, simply because of the size and the sheer size of the length of the operation, which is around close to 260 kilometers. So this is followed by Kolkata Metro, which is with about 216 cars, and right now Mumbai, which will be around close to 248 rail cars. So given the rapidly increasing ridership, cities across the country are experimenting with state-of-the-art technologies to make urban rail systems more efficient, reliable, and passenger-friendly. So if you can see, Indian metro systems are steadily moving from semi-automatic to unattended driverless train operations. So you also see a lot of features in the train. You have higher acceleration. You have lightweight stainless steel bodies. You have LCD screens for the route maps. You have spacious seating, regenerative electric braking, and thanks to augmented reality and virtual reality technologies as well. And these are all, and including robots and AI, which is being increasingly used in the manufacturing. So in the next couple of years, say in the next 2 to 3 years, what we are going to see is India is expected to increase to about 5,400 rail cars.
I think we lost Vijay.
Yeah, I too cannot hear him anymore.
His image is frozen on the screen.
Yeah.
Gopi or Mahendra, can you call him and let him know that he doesn't seem to be connected any longer? And in the meantime, until he joins us, what I wanted to do was, I think certain themes came across which were common across more than one person's observations on what their industry is going through. So I'm just going to briefly bring these up, and I hope that people will on the call will talk about a little bit deeper, and also specifically think of what can we do for solutions for some of the problems which have been common problems which have been pointed out. So the first problem which I want to talk about is how our labor force needs to become more modern, more productive, more skilled. I think we have heard from a variety of different people that this needs to happen. And as our VC began the conversation itself, we pointed out that our curriculum is a bit outdated and needs to modernize very fast. So especially if we want to compete with China, who's more productive and more efficient than us, what do you think needs to happen in the short term? And especially for the students who are on this call, what can they do? And in the medium to longer term, what needs to happen to bring out a much more skilled and productive labor force?
Should I take this, Vijay?
Yes, anybody who has who would like to talk on this, please.
Basically, I just look back to my college days when I completed my engineering and then ended up with a company like SPIC in the heavy chemicals. What was happening is there is a significant amount of fundamentals you learn in the college, which is more, I would say, curriculum driven and then basics driven and things like that. What we completely lack is the industry perspective. So recently I was traveling abroad, and we met a company which makes actually filter dryers for the pharma industry. So it's situated in Europe, and what they say is, if a person wants to take up this as a career, what he says is, immediately after finishing his 10th or 12th grade, if he chooses to go into this path, he is given a sort of a training in the industry, and the industry itself can give him a sort of a ITI type of a certificate. He doesn't need to go to a college. So he is absolutely clear that this is the career I'm choosing, and the industry trains him on the job. So these are the sort of perspectives. Like finally, we also started off like something called as a Skill India movement. But whether we are able to make it happen on the ground, so that needs to change. I think it is the polity which needs to make this happen. And it's a sort of a common theme across states. I'm not making a sort of a political statement, but what we need to do is, we have the overall, I would say, intent is clear, but then somehow we have not been able to percolate this action across to the last mile, I would say, end user. So I think what we need to do is, we have to organize occasional groups which are industry specific, and probably pull in the young talent which comes out of college, and put them through a sort of a rigor which will make them industry ready. If we do this, I think we can probably achieve a lot.
Dr. Murugesan, do you have any thoughts on the subject? You are on mute, sir. Please unmute.
I'd like to touch upon this Skill India movement, which you know that Annamalai University started a center called Skill Development Center, through which UGC and MHRD has more than 3-4 courses on Bachelor of Vocational courses, and that will give hands-on training to the students and also make the students industry ready. We are organizing an online course on the skill development among faculty members, which attract more than 2,000 participants for this online course. So what is needed, need of the hour is not merely the domain knowledge, but need to have the skill sets which is needed for the industry. And that is why the for technical education as well as other statutory bodies intended to have internship, industrial training, and so that immediately after graduation, the students should be ready to take up the job. Previously, you know, after graduation, the students are employed in either in the manufacturing industry or in IT or IT-enabled industries. They were given training for 3 months or 6 months. But now the industries are not afford to give such a kind of training. So that training is being given in the final semester for the students, and ready for industry. So the skill development is a very important component in all educational institutions, and that is why Annamalai started the skill development center, and many courses are being offered. Thank you very much.
Okay. So what do you think needs to happen for more collaboration with industry in setting the curriculum?
Yeah. In fact, after I assumed office, the curriculum is being set up by industry professionals, alumni, and other institutes like IIT, IASC, not just only the colleges, the experts from industries, the experts from alumni association members, and I made it a mandatory that the board of studies of each faculty should have 2 alumni and 2 industry professionals as a board of studies member, as well as in the academic council, so that the curriculum will be as per the industry need. And that is, it is being done in the 2019 regulations of Annamalai University for all disciplines, not only engineering and technology, but also for arts, science, and other branches of studies.
Mr. Damodaran, you had mentioned that in Europe, especially, there is a strong practice of taking high school students and putting them through vocational training in the industry itself.
Yeah.
Do you think that practice is going to take off in India? Do others feel comfortable, taking somebody straight from school and putting them through rigorous industrial training?
I think this is happening in a small way. If you really look at the pharma industry, I think definitely companies like Dr. Reddy's or I would say Cadila and all those things who are running industries in the special economic zones, they have definitely taken people post 12th pass. Not it was not 10th pass, it was 12th pass, and then gone through a sort of a 2-year training course to make them, I would say, pharma ready. So they have run these programs. There are many such initiatives which are happening in these economic zones. But only thing is, as good to hear Dr. Murugesan say that Annamalai University has taken such an initiative. I think the collaboration with the industry and then understanding the interests of the students and then aligning them on the course like that would be helpful. And I think it will definitely be more and more in the future.
Yeah, I would like to add a couple of points. Basically, right now, when graduates are coming out of college, one is the domain knowledge and general. Other things is the soft skills. So basically, what is happening is today there is a big gap between what is the current industry need and the curriculum. Say, as the Vice Chancellor said, now people are looking at education institutions are looking at bridging that gap. But added to that, like one of the reason why Germany is so technically advanced and why they are able to develop good engineers is most of their courses, they also have a industrial apprentice. Say if somebody has to do an engineering, at least for 6 months, they have an industrial apprentice as apprenticeship as part of their course curriculum. So that should also happen in India, and also the students have to be developed in other areas like communication, because today somebody is domain knowledge, we can easily train up a person to work on a CNC or work on any processes by taking him through a 10 days or 15 days training program. Whereas other skills have to be, especially the discipline. So in India, one of the reasons why when you compare Chinese productivity or a European productivity to Indian productivity is mainly because of discipline. What our people lack is a major discipline, and sometimes they try to be more smart and then end up in a problem. This is where we have to make a major difference.
So how do you think we can inculcate a better culture of discipline and, like you said, trying not to be too smart? It's a fine balance, right? You want people to be innovative, but still you don't want them to cut corners just for the sake of laziness.
No. Basically, the one is the discipline has to come right from our school education. Today, the need is not only the university education, even the school education need to be changed. So there has to be a drastic change in our education system right from the schooling level. And if they want somebody to industry ready, this sort of an apprenticeship during the professional courses should also be there. Say one of the reasons why the chartered accountant, they have to go through they have to go through at least for a couple of years of internship. That is what should happen to industry also.
Okay.
Other professional courses also.
Mr. Ilmahai, you had mentioned that safety and environmental aspects are big concerns in the chemical industry. And I think that Mr. Damodaran also echoed that in the pharma. So what needs to happen, to avoid accidents like what happened in Visakhapatnam recently? And two, is there something which needs to improve both from a policy perspective and from implementation perspective on the part of the industry, both to actually fix safety issues as well as to have a better public relationships with the general population, so that chemical and pharma industries are not viewed as harmful?
In fact, this accident could have been avoided. There is a planned shutdown on that day of declaration of the lockdown. They should have given 2 days, 3 days time for the workers to come to the factory and shut down it safely. In fact, everybody was taken for a surprise, and we were all forced to shut down the units on that night. I think this is a lesson for even planners and the government, that we should have given 2-3 days time to shut down, or otherwise we should have allowed the continuous process industries to continue, like refineries. Chennai Petroleum Corporation never went for a shutdown. Similarly, few units I know, all India basis, they didn't go for a shutdown, pharma units and refineries. So they could have allowed this kind of LG Polymer or any other company, those who have some serious problem in storing that hazardous chemical, should have been given enough time to shut it properly and maintain it properly, or otherwise they should have allowed to continue. There could be exceptions always, like we allow the pharmacies to run the shops. Similarly, we are running the essential stores, supermarkets are running all the time during the lockdown period. They could allow the continuous process industries. In fact, we realized that in Manali, and immediately we asked the state government to give permission, and they also happily agreed to give the permission for the continuous process industries in Tamil Nadu to continue the operations. That's how we planned and started immediately, and we could have avoided any such things. So there is a planning required, and also hazard studies and safety audits should be made compulsory for all the chemical and pharma industries. I think they are already doing it. I think it could be made compulsory also.
So I think you mentioned that now is also good opportunity for better automation using IoT, more technology, etc. So do you think that these kind of safety issues are going to be a big driver for this? And connected to this, do you think there are any opportunities for the IT and IT enabled service companies to work with chemical process industries more closely?
I read some good report saying that there is a big opportunity for the IoT in chemical sector, digital and IoT. I think big opportunity, because people would love to have a safe control with good automation, and IT industries can look at chemical industries, refineries, petrochemical plants, pharma, chemical industries, and there is a good opportunity for the IoT in chemical sector.
So one question I would like to ask all the panelists is that it seems that there are lots of unmet synergies with other companies which are not happening. For instance, it's not clear who should be driving IoT adoption more. It is not, so Damodaran and Mr. Ilanaya mentioned that probably it looks like pharma and chemical industries face similar problems, similar issues. What needs to happen for better collaboration so that the different skills of different people are brought together to make things happen more efficiently?
Vijay, if I may take that question.
Please.
When industry went into lockdown, this happened, I would say, around the mid of March. And companies had to suddenly start working from home. I'm not sure about the experience of MSMEs working for a large MNC. We realized that within a couple of days, most of these companies were able to operate remotely almost to 100% level for functions for which locations don't matter. I mean, you obviously cannot manufacture cars sitting from home, but for the functions that you can manage, there was a successful experience for most of them. So which means the IT equipment as well as bandwidth and so on was already available, and it was a classic case of necessity being the mother of invention. We found within a couple of days, hey, this is not bad at all. People can work from home. So, the answer to your question is IoT and connectivity are core pillars of digitization. And I think it's the industry or the companies themselves that need to adopt this and not look for somebody else to come in and do it for them. Now you can't even allow your customers to visit your site. So let alone somebody who can get in to help you with digitization. So I would say it's up to the companies themselves to absorb this and take a leap of faith in this direction.
Just to add to what Kalyan was mentioning, see, I think every industry has got some sort of a best practices and gone through crisis management, gone through periods wherein they have to stay afloat and all these times. I think one of the best ways to, I would say, do is cross-pollinate. So sometimes, let's say, for example, if I have a project manager who's doing a sort of a project management for a customer, I could probably look at a project manager from an automobile industry. So maybe it may require some sort of an adaptation. But I think if we are able to cross-pollinate, at least in sort of, I would say, service domains, that will bring in a lot of, I would say, best practices and adoption of newer and newer technologies across industries. So that would be probably one thing which probably leaders could do.
Okay.
Vijay, I have a point. Now it is something like companies need to invest on technology, because like all our friends who are representing or who are part of MNC companies or in Pharma, Damorin, were saying about definitely IT or digitization can happen within the company, by the company, only if there is a mind to invest. Without investing, you cannot definitely improve. See, I have told about my story of growth in our company and the company's growth. Purely, I can say proudly that for IT technology alone, our company has so far invested more than 25 to 30 crore.
Okay.
We are an ERP company, also a software company also, but our software is being used by Nagarjuna construction kind of companies. But unless companies tend to invest on technology, there is no way whatever we talk about AI or whatever it is, it can never happen. So like somebody said, pharma companies are yet to look at investing in technology or IT or something like that. It is one major area where Indian companies' mindset has to change. This is my thought.
So do you think this pandemic will give a big push to investment into digitization?
Definitely, because I was part of digitization of manufacturing and other industries in CII, along with Mr. Santanam of Saint Gobain. It was discussed in length that companies need to invest, and this is one opportunity where definitely a lot of area of operational management or control or audit, other things, definitely can happen through digitization, and companies need to invest on. See, if you take all the Zoom or other platforms in which we are discussing, I don't see any Indian company which has developed something like this through which we are discussing.
Exactly.
There is a mandate or something like that. Zoom is owned by somebody from China. Don't do it, and all those things. But we have no other go. So these are all opportunities for even larger or smaller companies. Definitely, this will open the way for new ideas and technologies to go into Indian industry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Just one point, Vijay.
Yes.
So I see a lot of synergy happening in this particular conference, because I see many of my stakeholders here along with me. So Mr. Yelanahai, Mr. Devarajan, so who are in the construction and chemical field also. So in fact, rolling stock would not be possible without the construction sector and the chemical sector completely in operation. So there is a lot of synergy that we have to gain from this. And like many of the speakers were also talking about this, I think there's a lot that we can do on digitization sector. I think many of the offices will need to start on the front office, back office operations as well to deal with this crisis. And usage of technology, I think, is going to be real imminent going forward. And as I was also saying about the Titanic, and then I got cut. So what I would also like to compare is with also the cheetah. This is another example I always like to give. Just as it's the fastest land mammal on Earth. So the biggest plus point of the cheetah is that it can really change course without reducing its speed. So I think agility and digitization should go hand in hand. There's a lot of synergy that we can gain from many companies. And really behavioral shift and working patterns are really going to be the need of the day. There's no longer the day when we say that we are going to work in this particular time. 3-shift operation is going to happen just to reduce to reduce the isolation and on the social distancing. There's going to be a lot of change which is going to happen, and we really need to be ready for this.
Okay. As you pointed out, Vijay, you got cut off when you were during your speech. I guess there were some problems with your connectivity. Would you like to take a couple of minutes and complete something, or shall we go ahead with the discussion?
Yeah, so I'll just come to the end. I just wanted to mention a couple of the lessons that we have learned. So I think government will need to really review and their supply chains. I think that's extremely crucial during this particular point. And with a more defensive mindset, a couple of other speakers also spoke about this. And this will also apply especially when the crisis highlights pre-existing political agendas as well. So just to quickly come to the conclusion, and that too on a positive note, I think I see a real opportunity to drive new discussions on transport usage and climate change as people move away from their pre-outbreak travel patterns. So I already spoke about digital technologies. I think that will come in fore more than the traditional and the manual methods. Smart scheduling, supply of service technologies, digital front office, back office solutions. I think this will be imminent also. So also we have been seeing Japan as a country, where you spend long hours in the office and then working overtime for decades. This has really been seen as a sign of success. I think this workaholic culture is going to change because of the virus, thanks to the virus actually. Companies are starting to realize that they can really do remote work as well. So just to conclude, I think the coronavirus has revealed the fragility of the modern supply chain. And I think we will also need to relook at the patterns of supply chain and dependency on various other countries. I think more than globalization, I think it's going to be a lot more of Make in India policies that is going to come up. Diverse sourcing, I think, will be also key to building a stronger smarter supply chain, bring a lasting recovery. So I think the current crisis is an opportunity to, many people have said, I think we need to reset a system that's been relied on outdated process. We will need to create smart and nimble supply chains. I think this will be the key to building a global trade and investment network that's capable of weathering any future storms. We really don't know beyond the coronavirus, beyond COVID-19, is there going to be a COVID-20 or COVID-21 which is coming up? We really have no idea on this.
Correct.
So even in the best of times, so I think infrastructure is going to be extremely difficult to get it right. So it's capital intensive, complicated, and time consuming to develop. So I think some more things that we need to develop is on environmental, social, and governance issues. I think this is another key point that needs to be addressed as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you, Vijay.
One thing I would like to mention here, because the global demand is shrinking, many countries may dump chemicals into India in the coming months. So Indian government has to protect the local industry, at least a temporary anti-dumping duty for some months. I'm not telling that WTO will not agree, but there is a chance that many countries will dump chemical into India. India is a good market. So Indian domestic industry will be hit by that. This is one point which we have to take it up with the government immediately. Thank you.
Okay.
Vijay, like Damodar and others said about cross-pollination, working between different industries. One more area where each sectorial, there has to be a clusters, because there are, even in a particular industry, even in a manufacturing, if you take auto component industry or a foundry or a forging, there are some companies who have done the best. They have the best of the practices. Some companies are not even in the just at the beginning stage. So one should understand there's a huge opportunity for everybody, and there is a global platform for India, and there has to be a cluster within those sectors, and they should not look at each other as a competition. They should coexist and embrace the best practices, and then that can create a huge opportunity. Because that is one of the reasons why China is very successful, because they have very good clusters. While they compete globally, but they can adapt that. They have best practices almost learned and implemented across all industries. That's a major point we should all look at.
Yeah, I will fully agree with Murali. I think that is one thing which we could definitely learn from China. So if you, let's say, for example, if you're interested in buying a furniture, you go to China, you have the entire set of furniture companies in a single place. And that's where they don't compete. They, one of my old bosses used to sell, it's called compete. So you start learning from each other's practices. And this is something which would definitely, because every industry to mature, I think we need an ecosystem in the country. And that ecosystem comes from clusters.
So are both of you suggesting government policies to drive physical clusters of similar industries, or are you suggesting something else?
No, the individual associations. One is the government, and basically individual associations can also take it up. And there has to be a sort of a mutual trust should happen. Say there has to be a attitudinal change. Now, nobody expected all of us to be sitting at home for 40, 50 days doing nothing. This has really put everybody out of place. So this should practically change everybody's attitude, and you should also think, okay, he's not a competitor. You can also learn from him something, and you can also give some learning to him, so that both of us can benefit out of this. So that kind of attitudinal change should come. And definitely the individual associations like a forging industry association or automobile ACMA, such associations can play a huge part in that, apart from the government.
Okay. One particular request to the group also is, Karthik was also speaking on this salary cuts and including job cuts as well. I think employers will need to be a little tolerant during this time, because just as projects have force majeure, I think employees have nothing to do with this particular crisis. And yes, they have really stayed at home because they think life is more important than livelihood, and it's none of their fault. I think the only thing that I would put forth to this particular panel is, I think we need to be a little considerate and tolerant to this particular to the employees, and because we are again going back to them. We will need to go back to them and ask them to ramp up the production and sales as well. So I think we need to be a little tolerant during this particular very difficult time.
That's a nice segue to one point which I wanted to bring up. Broadly, a lot of people spoke about labor in terms of the types of labor, how they're getting compensated, how they're affected, how their lives will change, and so on and so forth. So I had a few questions to ask over here. First is, we are seeing unprecedented, I guess many people already knew, but now almost everybody in India knows just how much migrant labor there has been. And that, do you believe that they will come back, or do you think that they will tend to stay in their states? And already states like Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh are making the right policy moves in terms of, or at least making the right announcements to try and keep the labor over there. So do you think fundamentally migrant labor dynamics are going to change, and what are some of the changes which will happen over there?
Can
Yeah,
I?
definitely. Please go ahead.
Because I understand Tamil Nadu has more than 40 lakh migrant workers from across the country. This was told by CII, and we are one among the largest industry where we employ a lot of migrant laborers. Out of this 5,500, close to 2,000 are staying back in our camps, or 2,200 precisely, and the balance of them have gone back. Our labor department, or the people who are in contact with those laborers in Orissa or Bengal or Jharkhand, what we hear from them is they are calling our people and asking them, when will you organize transport for us to come back? There is no job here, there is no income, we are suffering. Even companies like us, we are supporting them, though they are not working or not in the project, because they are all long-time workers. It may be the case with a lot of hotel industry where we see a lot of other state people working. In many parts of Tamil Nadu particularly, you can see, even in agriculture, we employ people from Madhya Pradesh or other places. So it is not, it is one India. The migrant labor is a new terminology. I do not know where it has come from. They are all people who want a job anywhere in India. Even in our order to an engineer, our job order says you have to be prepared to work anywhere in India. So I believe the situation will improve. They will come back. We may have to little more, like our friend said, considerate and provide better facility, keep them in good shape. Definitely, this is my feeling, they will come back. I understand many states do not have the capacity to provide job opportunity to them. That's why they all had come so long. This is my feeling.
Okay. I think somebody else also had some thoughts on the subject.
Yeah. Mr. Devraj was talking about the bigger industries, whereas a lot of MSMEs, they also employ this migrant labor. So their case is going to be different, because a lot of MSMEs, they may not be able to support them. So there will be they will now look at, even if they are going to pay more, they are going to look at employing the local people. So that's going to be a shift. And definitely it will be a mixture of both. It's not good. Not all the migrant laborers are going to come back. So we should also strike a balance between the local employee and the migrant labor. That's what is going to happen.
This we should take an opportunity and train the laborers in Tamil Nadu to take up different assignments. The last 10 years, what happened, that many Tamil Nadu workers, they don't want to do the sundry jobs. That culture is to be changed. Maybe this is an opportunity. We can educate our people that nothing wrong in doing that sundry jobs in the initial stage. They want to remain unemployed rather than working on these sundry jobs. So that culture is to be changed in Tamil Nadu. I think we can do that using this opportunity.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mr. Devarajan, I also wanted to ask you, if people are going back, the laborers are going back home,
Okay.
does that provide an opportunity to kickstart infrastructure projects in those areas where there are high concentrations of labor? Do you think that might happen with or without government support?
Yeah, take for example, the Rourkela, we are doing a hospital project for sale, where around 1,100 people were there. And 700 have stayed back, and balance people have gone back. And some of them, due to some real reason, they want to go back now. What we have decided within Orissa, see, that is the important advantage of India. A lot of people from Tamil Nadu, they are going and working in Bangalore. in construction itself. Similarly, Orissa people traveling outside. So what we have decided, we are very closely working with the Orissa government and identifying the pockets of availability of skilled laborers, mason or carpenter, and try to engage them within the state. This may be one scenario. Even in MSME manufacturing, some of the companies in Erode, they were able to retain the people, properly communicating with them because they are with the MSME industry for 6-7 years or so. Almost they speak in Tamil, they are living here with family or something like that. See, as long as we think about them as in some of the cases, many of the companies do not even know the name where he comes from or something like that. I personally had told our people that the time has come for us to understand them culturally, how they are, what do they really need, treat them with better humane approach, then they will continue to be with us. So within India, there are talented people are available that may go for a small logistic change and other things. But for sure, though it may take little more time, it will come back because the opportunity for India in the coming decade and the kind of jobs that we are going to offer them definitely will make them come back. This is my feeling because all these 2,000 people, see, we are working for Siemens in one of the projects in Dharapuram, where 180 people are there. Only 30-40 people have expressed their willingness to go. Even we requested them, please go after 1 month, because going now may also become an issue. In between, there are some, the so-called NGOs and social media have put this issue into a different perspective, and that's why a lot of agitation and other things have started.
So this takes me to a related point where it looks like there will be a need for upskilling certain labor skills, as well as increasing the number of people in a very short time. I think Mr. Murli Shankar said that to start the machines, skilled service personnel are required. So this is a question both to our Vice Chancellor as well as to other people. What needs to, assuming that things come back roaring back in the next 6 months to a year, it looks like we will need more people with better skills very, very fast. So can the university do something over there? What needs to do to make this happen?
Jay, if I may start here.
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah. It's not just upskilling, but it's also cross-skilling. We spoke about migrant labor, right? When the lockdown was announced, what we all did, whether it's someone who was in the knowledge sector or in the manual sector, there was a panic buying, which was basically to create self-sufficiency. So similarly, when you take any situation after the crisis, there will be first an approach to create self-sufficiency. But labor by nature, whether it is knowledge or manual, has to be migrant. Same way, taking it into what you said in terms of skilling, it's just not upskilling, it is cross-skilling. Many industries themselves will try to create the sufficient workforce or the create the skill within their workforce. At the same time, on the individual level, the gig economy is also going to grow. You will have people offering services for short-term projects significantly. So when I am not very sure that we may need a lot of people for a long time to start an manufacturing plant, or you need a lot of people for a short time to start it and then put it on the operational mode. So there will be one from the industry side, focus on creating self-sufficient skill proficiency to run, maintain, and continue. On the individual level, a lot of cross-skilling will happen because of migration patterns changing. So you will have an individual offering multiple skills, so that group can come together, offer their services, and go back to another project. So that pattern also will happen. Institutions, as I said, breaking the mental models, The structured way of approaching having 4-year curriculum may not be staying relevant for a too long a time. Industry specific, more segmentation is happening in every industry. So those segments will drive skills, upskills, cross skills. So that's few thoughts that I wanted to share with the group.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Murugesan, do you have anything to add, sir?
I already pointed out in the higher order learning skills, one of the very important focus is creating skills among students,
Okay.
and also so to make the students to think innovatively and also learn project-based learning as well as practice learning. Every semester, the student is supposed to do a small project so that the skill of the students will enhance. Whereas for workforce, which is already in the industries, the government of India has skill development centers in various places. I think these laborers as well as semi-skilled workers, they can upskill their training in the skill area movement. As far as education sector is concerned, this COVID-19 is an eye-opener for not only for higher education, right from school education to higher education. There is going to be a paradigm shift in the coming years in terms of curriculum, in terms of teaching learning, in terms of examination, because this COVID-19 has given a lot of lessons to educators, policymakers, and all stakeholders. I am sure in the coming years, the education sector will go a drastic change in its approach.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, does anybody else have any comments on this topic?
Yeah, just to add to what Dr. Murugesan said, see, in our own country, like the IT industry has shown that skilling is possible. See, finally, they took out a bunch of engineers every year, thousands and thousands, and they were able to train them for the IT field. I think we have to pick some leads from that and then ensure there is a sort of a good industry versus university collaboration wherein we are able to skill people for the industry. I think there should be a government push to also push the private sector to take some sort of a compulsory vocational students into their domain and then train them for a specific industry.
Okay.
It's already happening now. Government has got a lot of programs like NEEM scheme and all. So that is already happening now. But it has to go in a big.
Okay. One last point I wanted to touch upon with respect to labor was labor management relationships. I think Karthik briefly touched on this when he said that, remuneration may need to incorporate, at least for the short term, incorporate other things than just money. And so one of our viewers has in fact written that they have started seeing problems with labor who are questioning salary cuts, longer hours, etc. So if you have concrete suggestions for how we can lessen the pain for our employees and how we can share some of their burden at least, I think that will be very useful both to share the knowledge with amongst ourselves and also for our wider audience.
Sure, Vijay. As this is a crisis, so there are crises will create a lot of unprecedented situations. Job losses, when you weigh job losses versus salary cuts, we will always go for salary cuts to protect jobs. Any company will do that. So on the looking at the collective benefit of all the employees, management will decide to look at.
I think he has to join.
Yeah, there was some disturbance.
No, I think the meeting time got over and now the host has re-extended it.
Correct.
Zoom has a timeline, I think.
Most of the people are back. Karthik, are you back? I don't see him still. So in the meantime, if other people have any thoughts or experiences or suggestions on, how to deal with labor remuneration issues, keeping them happy or at least happy enough, and making sure that they also believe in the vision of the company?
See, Mr. Vijay, it is something like our model of engagement so far with the migrant labor would have been through some kind of mediator or agent. There will be a head labor or somebody. In our understanding, in many of the industries here have understood, like the full money what we are giving is not going to them. Even there was a report saying that per person the in charge is taking 50 rupees per day or something like that. Most of them are ignorant people. Collectively, they are little agitated. But so what companies like us have decided, direct transfer of money to all the people in their bank account. This is one area, and we even talk to they come from a village in say Bengal or other place. We talk to the sarpanch of that village, ensure that we are a very reputed company, reliable company. So we take care of the family, something like that. L&T does it, or Sapurji and Palunji, they also do the same thing. Otherwise, this many people we cannot retain. And that too, you all know, they are working in a very different weather condition, and the conditions always used to be challenging in a construction project. So it's our approach with respect to salary. As Mr. Ilanagai said, Tamil Nadu, as long as these freebies and wine shops are open and a lot of money is being given to them in different format. So there is no motivation or urge for them to come to work. It doesn't mean that we don't have people. See, so many people, so around 8 lakh students are passing out of 12th standard, and only 3.5 lakh goes to the college or higher studies. So what is happening to the balance people? They are going to some other activity. So dignity of labor has to be there. Working is not a sin. Touching, hands-on working. Somehow, Tamil Nadu, due to various political somehow our people are not willing to do certain jobs. So these things has to change, and we may find innovative ideas and solutions for the change in these areas.
Karthik, you're
Sorry,
back on,
Vijay.
so why don't you complete your thoughts?
Sorry. So I was saying that until this cross alignment or realignment of workforce happens, these things are definitely going to be there, and it will stay. When I say these things, reductions in salaries, increments, or delay in bonus payouts are going to be there. There is no escape from that. I also mentioned about care becoming an important one. Employees, while livelihood is important, the employers will look for how the employers care for themselves. It's not about what the employers just do as a program, but what they perceive to that extent, what they are being cared is also going to be an important one to have the workforce motivate and keep them engaged and get the best out of them. If you ask me for a very specific way to deal with this, the different levels of management have to come into collaboration and take a call on how to distribute the entire, or how to relook at the cash models to protect jobs.
Just to add to what Mr. Devarajan was telling. See, in the US also, you have some sort of a payouts, but all these payouts, what was happening was routed through the industry. So if you are not doing a job cut or a salary cut, the government was actually paying the industry, which in turn was actually going to the employees. So in India, it's done through the polity. So that means what is happening is you are actually disturbing the labor attitude. So you are giving freebies, and they feel that the employers are no more in control, and the politicians are in control. It's not in Tamil Nadu, it's across the country. I think the industry, if they are employing people, most of this freebies or whatever the situations which are coming should be routed through the industry, because finally the labor should feel that he would get a wage only if he works. It's not only for laborers, but it is for employees, blue-collared, brown-collared, across jobs.
Okay.
Vijay, one more point before concluding. As our Vice Chancellor is very keen to revive the glory of our university, I request all these panelists, which is a wonderful combination and 2.5 hours, excellent discussion, very productive and very quality and disciplined. I feel this group, exclusively with the organizers of this group, can continue to engage ourselves with the university in some form or other. This is my humble request and thought. Consider it.
Definitely,
Sure,
sir.
sure, Mr. Devada.
Sure, sure.
So I think you pointed out we have been going for 2.5 hours, and I know that it's taking away a lot of time from your days. I just wanted to conclude on one topic alone. And we have already touched on various aspects of it. So it looks like China really went ahead of India in manufacturing only in the last 10 to 15 years or so. And it is only now that we are realizing just how deeply entwined, dependent even India is on them for our supply chains. So in the short term, what needs to happen to decrease that dependency, get back some of our manufacturing mojo, and in the longer term, what do we need to do to at least match China as a manufacturing powerhouse?
I would like to mention here that the red tapeism in Indian system is to be removed. There is a lot of delay in getting approvals. See, in fact, we signed a big project agreement in the gym last 1.5 years before. Still, we are not to get the approvals in the system. So one cannot wait for years together to put up a project. So, whereas in China, I understand that they get the clearance in 3 months' time or 6 months' time. So
Okay.
India, it takes years together. So no investment will come if it is going to take 2 years, and we have to hasten the process.
Now, one thing, Vijay, I was told, how true it is, I do not know. The Chinese premier, the current premier, when he was the vice premier, when our prime minister was the chief minister, the same question was asked by our prime minister to the Chinese premier. The answer was, you have 3 impediments or 3 liabilities: democracy, judiciary, and bureaucracy. If these 3 things are streamlined, then many things can happen. That's what.
So, Mr. Vijay,
Yes, sir.
of Annamalai University, I would like to thank all the panelists, since the panelists are from broad spectrum, starting from manufacturing, pharmaceutical, chemical industry, IT, construction industries. My request as a Vice Chancellor, first of all of you should involve in the curriculum design as well as in the syllabus, so that we will produce graduates for the future with skill as well as talent. This is my request to all of you. And also, I request all of you to participate in the infrastructure development of the universities and also developmental activities. And the first and foremost is we have to skill the students so that they should be industry ready. So I seek all your support and cooperation in extending your fullest support to give internship to our students as well as industrial training to our students. Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely we will do it.
We'll do it, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
So on that note, I would like to first ask if anybody wants to have any concluding remarks.
Fantastic moderation. Great question.
Thanks to moderator, thanks to VC and the organizers of this program. I think Magendra Kumar, Gopi and Shanmugasundaram should organize such programs in future also. I think our lady engineers also want to participate. I think I request them to organize one program by our Annamalai University lady engineers before the lockdown is totally lifted.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
include
great.
one or two women entrepreneur or women leaders from Annamalai in different field.
Definitely, definitely.
Thank you,
And I
Vijay.
think for
Excellent
the
moderation.
organizers, unfortunately, because of time constraints, we could not address all the questions which our viewers have asked us. If you can think of some way in which we can continue this forum in a offline manner, so that this discussion keeps going, the connections which have been formed continue to, the ideas which have cross-pollinated continue to go on. I think that will be very useful. For me personally, I think many people have mentioned I'm truly humbled to share this platform with such an eminent set of panelists, people who have achieved so much in life. It makes me very proud of my university, and also makes me realize just how lucky I was to have studied at Annamalai University and gotten in touch with such a fantastic network. So we should continue to leverage this. That is my fervent appeal to all of you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
think
Thank you, Vijay.
we should thank everybody,
Thank you all.
and then we should hope that optimistically we will conclude that we have a better future.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Please
Thank you, Vijay.
think always your